Hello everyone, Dr. Seth Gerlach. Today I'm talking about toxins in or on our food. So did you know that the foods you eat every day could be breaking you down, that can be making you toxic, that can lead to fatigue and joint pain and immune problems and gut problems? It's true. So today I'm going to talk about which toxins in our food we need to look out for, and then 6 ways that we can go toxin free when eating. So just off the bat here, we know that since World War II, about 80,000 chemicals have been introduced to our environment. So some of those chemicals are in our food now. And not many of these chemicals have been tested to see how they affect humans long term. And none of them have been really tested to see how they affect one another, especially in the human body. So this becomes very problematic. We know that the Environmental Working Group did a study on newborns. They found that the average newborn has up to 300 chemicals in their umbilical cord blood when they are born. So we're already toxic before we come into this world here. So when we think about toxins, we think, number one, we have to stop the toxins from coming in first, right? There's no use in helping someone start detoxifying if they're 3 times a day they're putting more toxins in their body. So what are the big toxins or chemicals that we can look out for when we're eating? So number one, we think about pesticides and herbicides. So these are going to be sprayed on most conventionally grown fruits and vegetables. And there was a study done that showed that the average American consumes over a gallon of pesticides and herbicides each year just from eating conventionally grown fruits and vegetables. Now, I don't know about you, but that just sounds disgusting to me. So think about, next time you're at the grocery store and you're debating on, should I go organic, should I just get conventional? Think about that gallon of pesticides that you're just adding to your body that is just so toxic to our cells. It can lead to things like infertility, brain fog, joint pain, so many different things. There's up to 350 different pesticides and herbicides that's used on food in America. That's a ton. So the EPA came out and said that 60% of herbicides, 90% of fungicides, and 30% of insecticides are probably carcinogenic, even though we use these things on our foods every single day. This is why it's so important that we have to go organic. So that's number one. Number two would be Roundup or glyphosate. Most people know it as Roundup. So Roundup actually started, it was a cleaning product for industrial pipes. It was so great at breaking down the gunk and the grime, and it's so abrasive and erosive for pipes that someone thought, hey, we could probably use this on killing weeds. So they use it they transformed Roundup into a weed killer, and now what they do, they have Roundup ready crops, where they spray Roundup over all the crops and plants. The main crops that are Roundup ready would be like wheat and soy, and so they douse these the wheat and soy in Roundup, which prevents the weeds from growing close to your from your crops, which gives you a little better yield. So yeah, it may give us a little better yield, but we know that Roundup has been labeled a probable carcinogen, which means causes cancer. And the studies in rats show that they can, one, grow tumors, and they can damage the liver and the kidneys. So what happens in humans, we think that it shuts down a certain part of our liver that helps us detoxify. So that's not good, right? We take in these toxins, and it prevents us from breaking or taking out the other toxins. And what it also does, it radically shifts the microbiome, all the good bacteria in our gut, which if our gut bacteria is out of balance, our whole body's out of balance. All right, that was number two. Number three would be BPA, bisphenol A. Now there's different bisphenols. Bisphenol A is the most researched. You can mainly find BPA in things like canned foods, but also if you're like cooking in plastics also, like you've got microwave meals or you heat up some leftovers in plastic, you're driving that plastic into the foods, and then you eat it. So BPA has been known to be a hormone disruptor. So what it does, it lands on our own hormone receptors and blocks them. So our hormones can be way out of balance when we have too much BPA. Another one would be genetically modified foods, and this has really just been the past couple of decades as this has ramped up. So genetically modified foods, the genetic structure has been changed, and usually in order to increase yields, increase shelf life, make the color brighter, and things like that. But what's good for shelf life is not good for your life. So the longer a food sits on the shelf, the more the nutrients go down. Not only that, genetically modified foods, like I said, the genes have been altered a little bit, so it's very hard for the body to recognize when they break down these foods, is this food or is this just a food-like substance? So we know in America, 88% of corn, 93% of soy is genetically modified. That's why it's so important we need to go organic if you're getting those foods. And the next one, number 5, would be antibiotics. Yes. So when I tell people, when we talk about food, you are not what you eat, you are what your food ate. So 80% of the antibiotics in America are actually used on livestock. So chicken, beef, pigs. What happens is they, like conventionally raised meats, the quarters are so close. There's so many chickens together. There's so many pigs together, and there can be so many cows close together that they're getting sick. They're defecating on one another, so they have to give them antibiotics constantly to keep them from getting sick. It's just disgusting when you think about it. And then when we eat the meat, that just tears up our gut because we're ingesting those antibiotics. Pretty gross. And then another one would be hormones. So dairy is a huge one for this. So dairy it raises insulin-like growth factor in our body, which has been shown to increase cancer rates. It leads to inflammation. It can also lead to insulin resistance, so blood sugar problems. Not to mention, 3/4 of the world can't even break down dairy. I shot a whole nother video on dairy. I'm not a dairy fan at all. Cow's milk is the perfect food for a baby calf to grow that to, hundreds of pound to 1,000-pound cow. It's not good for humans to ingest other mammals' milks. So one other food I did want to talk about is farm-raised fish. So there's a big controversy of farm fish versus wild caught. Now, farm fish, what happens is they have so many different fish, usually like salmon or tilapia, all in one particular spot. It's very overcrowded. Again, they defecate on one another. They can be given antibiotics. They're more prone to have parasites, and they can artificially color them. So farm fish is just super toxic food. It's not good for you. So shoot for wild caught when you can, wild caught salmon. You want to avoid things like shark and swordfish. They're going to be higher in mercury, and sometimes even tuna. So that's what we need to look out for. Those are the toxins, the chemicals that we see in the food. Those are the big ones. There's other ones out there. Those are the big ones. We also need to worry about what are we cooking our food in, right? So if we've even got good food and we're cooking it in the wrong stuff, we can still get toxic. So if we're cooking on non-stick pans that have the Teflon, those have been shown to lead to thyroid problems, infertility, organ damage, and the EPA just came out and said that the PFCs that this Teflon, the non-stickware gives off is likely carcinogenic, likely causes cancer. Not good. Another one is the microwave. Do you have microwave meals you shove in with plastic or even on a plate? What microwave does, it changes, again, the genetic structure of the food. It's not heating the food, it's changing the genetic structure so quickly that it heats up. So instead of the nonstick, instead of the microwave, I would go towards something like a ceramic, cast iron, stainless steel. Heat up your food, make your food in that. It's such a better choice. All right, so here are 6 tips that I gave for people to avoid, 6 tips to how to avoid toxins in food then. So number one would be go organic. And so we talked about how many pesticides and herbicides are in our conventionally grown fruits and vegetables even. So that's an easy switch to go organic. If money's super tight, I would say go to Environmental Working Group's Dirty Dozen. Check out the foods that are way more prone to have the pesticides, herbicides on them. Make sure you get those organically, at least for now. Number two, making sure your meat is pasture-raised, grass-fed, and wild-caught. We talked about antibiotics in meats, how damaging those are, how the added hormones, the growth hormones, can really hijack our own hormones. So that's super important to get those. Number three, nothing from a box or a bag. So anything that's made in a lab that's in a box or a bag, it's good for shelf life. It's not good for your life. It's going to be nutrient devoid, it's going to be inflammatory, and it's going to be full of toxins. Number four, stay away from the microwave. You can also include the non-stick cookware in here. It's going to change the genetic structure of the food. It can actually leach more chemicals into the foods, what we don't want. Number five, when you're storing your leftovers, store them in glass. Super easy. You're not going to get the BPA, and you can just throw that right in the oven when you're ready to heat it up. It's super easy. Number six, lastly, avoid problematic foods. We know dairy and soy are the probably one of the most toxic foods on the planet just because of the hormones, the glyphosate, the pesticides, the antibiotics, and all this can hijack our own hormones, can raise our insulin, can cause inflammation, neurological and gut problems, immune problems, the list goes on and on. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video on toxins in food. Put these tips to good work. And so my goal is to really help people realize that the body's made to heal. So if we can just put good things into our body and get the bad things out, the body can heal and repair. So if this resonates with you, make sure you help share the message that the body's made to heal, that we're meant here to be healthy and not be sick. So I hope everyone enjoyed this and have a great rest of your day. Take care.